Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Grace. I'm River. I work with our middle schoolers and our high school students. I'm a student ministry resident. That just means I'm going to Grace College and working on my master's degree while I'm doing full-time ministry. And it's been awesome. I have 1 year left of school, guys. Yeah. Give me claps. I'm just joking. I don't care. Thanks, guys. No, and I'm super excited. It's like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm pumped about it. And today we are finishing off our series on 1 John, and it's been an absolute blast. If this is your first time joining us today, I highly encourage you to go back and catch up on the series. Aaron and Ryan have done a fantastic job of setting up this series and just giving us a couple really helpful conversations for thinking through 1 John for me personally. And through this conversation, we've been able to key in on these two ideas. How does God view me, and what does it look like for me to follow Jesus? And probably for all of us, this has been a reframing conversation for what it means to follow Jesus. And here at Grace, we talk more about following Jesus than Christianity, because this is a level deeper than being a bunch of do-gooders or religious people. We're talking about what it practically means for us to follow Jesus with our everything in our everyday life. And this is what the author John is writing about. He's an old man now, and he's writing to a new generation of believers, and they were a generation removed from Jesus. And this would have been a group of people who didn't know Jesus personally, and they've heard a lot of things about Jesus, and they've decided to put their faith in him and to follow him, and they're being faced with several conflicting views on Jesus, and understandably, they have a lot of questions, and they're lacking some clarity and certainty on who Jesus is and what he means for their lives. And old man John is writing to give them clarity and certainty about Jesus. He says Jesus was a man, and John would have been one of his first followers who knew him personally. He would have said, I saw him with my eyes. I heard the words he said. I ate with him. I walked with him. I lived life with him. So what John is communicating in a very clear way is that Jesus is God. And because God's love has shown up in this world as the man Jesus, it means something profound for all of us. And throughout the series, Ryan and Aaron have done a great job of framing where this conversation has led us today. But essentially, it's this: God steps into our mess on purpose. And Jesus, he lives a perfect life and dies a death he didn't deserve for us. We don't deserve this gift. We couldn't earn this gift, but Jesus chooses to love us in this extravagant way. Jesus invites us to accept this free gift of grace and love. And when we receive this love, we're saying yes to Jesus, that I am all in on the life that he has for me. I'm saying I'm leaving my old life of sin and I am entering into the family of God, and here we are. And for a couple of you in this room, you may be asking yourself, is this real? It's too good to be true. If this is your first time hearing this, yes, it's true, and it's real, and it's for you. Jesus wants a relationship with you no matter where you're coming from, no matter what you've done, and that is the good news. You can start a relationship with a loving God today, right now. But whether you've been following Jesus for 50 years, the past 50 seconds, we often get stuck. Just like, what am I doing following Jesus? What does this mean for me practically? And when I was younger in high school, someone asked me a question that kind of shaped a large chunk of my life. This dude walked up to me when I was in 8th grade going to 9th grade. He said, River, are you going to be like Sky? Now, Sky's my older brother. He's a phenomenal athlete. He did really well with soccer and all of that. But what I heard when he said, are you going to be like Sky, was this: are you going to be like the rest of your family? Are you going to be like the rest of them? Some context for my family: they're really good at soccer. It's kind of the thing we do. It's like when you think of the Harders, you associate, soccer is a big piece of it. And for me, I just imagined like, oh yeah, of course I got to do that. I'm going to be just like Sky. And it's something for you guys. My family, my 3 older brothers, every single one of them made varsity their freshman year. And I was like, yeah, I'm in on that. I got that in my bag. It's easy. Got it. I'm harder. That's what we do. Those are good stats. I'm probably going to just fit right in there. And it was my mission to show that I was worthy of being a part of my family. I really, really thought that if I made varsity, it just kind of locks in my place. Like, this is what the harders do, you know? And I believed, this is ridiculous, if I didn't make varsity, then I would be unqualified to be a part of my family. They'd cut me, like I wouldn't be able to pay rent or whatever. I don't know, something ridiculous. But I worked really hard my freshman year. I trained my butt off. I practiced hard. I sprinted the sprints, stupid sprints, and I did this running group. All right. I was so bad at running that my coach like, you should really do this running group. It meets on Saturdays at 6 a.m. Because you got to work on your mile because I was slow or whatever. Anyways. So I started going to this running group. I worked my butt off to get my mile time down. I aimed all of my habits towards making varsity. I hung out with all the soccer players on the team, you know. These were the people I associated with because if I'm going to do everything in my life to be on this team. I'm going to put my habits, all my practices, all the people I'm going to be with, the beliefs, I'm in on this team, so I'm going to be in because I'm a harder, and this is what we do, all right? And that's and the long story, I didn't make varsity that year at all, like not even close. Like, I made JV B, and I floated sometimes JV A, and then I didn't make it the second year either, or the third. Yeah, and the fourth year I was too injured to play, so there's that too. So it was great. So it was an absolute blast. But I remember that second year hitting absolutely the hardest for me, and I was like, man, I'm failing my family. This is what it means to be a part of the family. I'm not even doing the right thing, and I was living in some pretty severe anxiety and depression and shame because I'm harder and I'm not doing what harders do. I had this mixed up view of my family, and it's in this moment where I turned to God, and I was like, and it's nothing fancy. I was like, hey, God, if you're real and you're so good like I hear so much about, could you maybe do something? Amen. It's like the least fancy prayer I've ever prayed, you know? And it's no gratitude in there. And all of who I was wrapped up in this belief that if I just made that team, I would be where I wanted to be in life. And that day, when I prayed that prayer, that belief was shattered because not moments later, my older brother, Sky, he meets me at my lowest low, and he says a couple crazy things to me. He's like, River, you are good at soccer. That's it. Great. The next thing is even more important. This doesn't define you. In fact, this doesn't even come close to what it means to be in our family. And Sky made that super clear. Our family is so much more than just soccer, this thing, and that you belong. The moment you were born, you belong to us. The moment your parents held you in your arms, you were in our family, and nothing can change that. And just as there was someone out of the family describing what my family was like, and I needed someone from inside my family to remind me what my family is actually like. So with John's audience, there are people outside of the family of God cluttering their view of what it means to be in on the life that Jesus is inviting them into. So John is going to address this in detail in 1 John 5, and if you've got a Bible, this is the time to open it up to 1 John. And if you don't have a Bible, we would love to give you a Bible. There are Bibles in front of all of these chairs, I think, and you can take that, you can write your name in it, you can highlight whatever you want to do. It's yours, it's our gift to you. So we're going to be in 1 John 5, verses 1 through 3, big number 5, little number 1 through 3, and it goes like this. John's writing says, everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ has become a child of God. If you believe in Jesus and that he is the Christ, the Messiah, the Savior of the world, you've been born of God. You've been born into his family. And there's nothing that you can do to take that away. There's nothing, you can't be good enough or bad enough. Remember, it's a free gift, right? You are in. You're in God's family, period. That's it. And you're his child. And it goes on, he says, and everyone who loves the Father loves his children too. As a result of joining God's family, we get brothers and sisters, which is an awesome thing. And this is what we would call the church. And we are surrounded by people who are on the same mission as us. They want to become more and more like the person of Jesus. And this family, it's amazing. It's marked and identifiable by a deep and profound love for one another. That's the thing. It's like if you are in on God's family, you're in this group of brothers and sisters, and you deeply love each other in a really weird way. It's like, wow, it's like you guys are kind of weird how nice you are all the time. Anyways, whatever. And it says this in verse 2, we know we love God's children if we love God and obey his commandments. Loving God means keeping his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. So the proof for loving God's children is seen in our love for him. And our love for God is marked by an obedience to what he says. It's the stuff we do is now based on what God says. And what John is highlighting here is a radical frame for living life. And Jesus, he becomes the center of your life, and everything you believe, all the habits you have, all of the relationships you have, they form around the new reality that Jesus is the one who redefines you. And the trajectory of our lives is now geared towards being with Jesus, becoming like him, and doing what he did. Now, let's get into the weeds of this. This is a huge deal right here, guys. Everyone here today is coming into this room with a bunch of different stories and habits and you have all these preconceptions of what it means to follow Jesus. And here's where it gets personal for every single person in the room, myself included. We're all here, and we're being formed by all of these three basic forces that we're going to talk about. And John talks about these three forces in a little bit of detail. And they frame the way we live. They're like guardrails for our lives. And when we use them, they can be extraordinarily helpful and beneficial for our lives. And here's the first one. John talks about our beliefs, the things that we think are true. Humans by nature we utilize stories for everything in our lives. We all have stories based off of our experiences that inform how we make thousands of decisions on a daily basis. And these stories can be around sex and money and relationships, work, God, etc. We have all of these stories about how we do life. And all these stories, they tell us how to live the good life, the best way possible, because everyone in the room wants to live the good life. That's the deal. And everyone has a mental map of how we should do life, and that is deeply formed by the stories we believe. And something that I've been dealing with forever, that I'm sure all of you are dealing with, is there's this construction on 76 going east. You know what I'm talking about? It's dumb. Anyways, it's killing me. And I feel like it's been there my whole life. I'm like, this has been here for 20 years. It's horrible. Anyways, but my favorite coffee shop, it's off of South Street. It's called Porchlight. You should go there. It's great. I love it. Anyways, but on the way home, you take South Street and you get on Main Street, and then you take the on-ramp and you get on 76. And one day, it was closed, the on-ramp. And if you know me, I'm like really bad at directions. I need Waze or Google Maps or Apple Maps, any map I can get to just go the right place. You know, it's not good. But I remember that first day, the construction stopped my normal route home, and I was like, oh no, I don't know how to go east to Akron anymore. And I spent like 20 minutes just driving around to get back to the same place. I'm like, I'm so dumb. Anyways, but I'm not dumb. Anyways, I figured it out. And the whole point is now, because of that moment, I have a story. And I have an understanding of how to get back home in a completely new way. And this has been informed by a story I now believe. Like, when I face problems getting home from this specific area in Akron, I know now how to get home. Guaranteed, I figure it out. Anyways, so the next one, the second force that deeply forms us is our habits. And our habits is pretty simple. It's just the stuff that we do. Anyone else do a lot of stuff? I do. Anyways, but there are good habits and bad habits, like running red lights. Please don't do that one. That's a bad one to have. Drinking coffee, prayer, and the things we do regularly, they get into the core of who we are, and they shape our desires, our beliefs, and our relationships. And we might think that I'm just watching Star Wars. You know, I'm just building some Legos, just buying a new shirt. I'm just I'm just sipping on a glass of wine. I'm just scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or YouTube or whatever you scroll through. I don't know. Or I'm just watching a little porn, whatever that is. And the whole point is there's more going on beneath the surface. We're actually doing something to our hearts. The things that we do, they change us. Our habits turn the direction of our life in a very specific direction. And one way I've heard this talked about in detail is like this. It's what we do, we become. And you might have heard it kind of like this. You are what you eat, or you get out what you put in. Whatever, if you put in X amount of work, then you'll land this far in life, or whatever it is. And the whole point is we're becoming something because of what we do. And the final force that forms us is our relationships. And relationships is something that we all have and understand a little bit, but it's pretty simple. It's just the people we're with. If you hang out with people for long enough, you start to sound, look like, act like it, all the things in the same ways, And people have said this about me and my siblings. They're like, River, it's really weird. I was just hanging out with you and your brothers, and it's kind of you don't just look the same. We look pretty similar, but you sound the same. Same cadence to our voice sometimes, same mannerism, we talk with our hands and all that, whatever. But they're it's really weird. And the odds are that the people we spend our time with will shape how we dress, how we vote, how we think, how we spend money and live. And we become the people we love and do life with. And when we put all of this together, we get what the Bible would often describe as your heart. And your heart is the thing that steers your life. It's kind of how the Bible will talk about it. Proverbs 4:23 says it like this: above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Everything you do in your life flows from your heart. And if we want to experience the good life that Jesus has for us, what John says that means now is that Jesus sits on the throne of your heart. He belongs in the center. He belongs in the very middle of your life. He's the one that dictates everything and guides you and directs you and shapes your habits, your beliefs, your relationships. And all of us have come to this conversation believing certain stories, practicing certain habits, and surrounding ourselves with different people. And John is going to continue talking about this idea is if we form our beliefs and our habits and our relationships around the person of Jesus, we experience not just the good life, but there's a promise of victory. That's a huge deal. He's going to continue on in John 4:5 right here. 1 John 5:4-5 says, for every child of God defeats this evil world, and we achieve this victory through our faith. And who can win this battle against the world? Only those who believe that Jesus is the Son of God. John knows that there's an actual battle going on right now for you and for me. And there's an enemy who wants to destroy you. And he will use all of these things we just talked about, the things you believe, the habits you have, the relationships in your life, to absolutely obliterate you. He hates you. He does. And he knows that these are the fastest ways to blow up your life and to keep you from Jesus. But John promises those who are in the family of God have victory. Assured, he can't touch you. You're in. You're in. Jesus has already done all of this work on the cross. He won. He won already. And what John says at the end of this chapter, he says this in 1 John 5:20 and 21, and we know that the Son of God has come and he has given us understanding so that we can know the true God. And now we live in fellowship with the true God because we live in fellowship with his Son, Jesus Christ. He is the only true God and eternal life. He's the only God worth following. He is the only God worthy of being on the throne of your heart. He's the only God that has the authority to speak into each one of these three areas of your life. But John, he knows how we are, which is awesome. And he finishes the whole book by saying this: dear children, keep away from anything that might take God's place in your heart. Jesus has come and he's lived with us, taught to us, and left an example of how to live. And now we see John writing to let us know exactly how we can live. But there are always going to be things fighting for that top spot in your heart. And it looks like this. there's always something in the middle there guiding you, moving you through life. And the number one place in your heart that God is where God is jealous to be. And he's always fighting to hold that spot. But us, myself included, we're all prone to having things take that spot that's not God. Here's some examples. Money is a popular opponent. The story that we typically believe is that if I just had more money, then I would have more happiness. And the good life is accomplished by having more and more of it. And yeah, money, it creates more opportunities for leisure, for fun, for discovery, for power, honestly. But money being at the center right here, it has the power to turn us into driven, greedy, envious, discontent people who are not satisfied. And we might even become dishonest with our money or cruel with our money, or we'll be like, I'm not going to give money to people. I need this money. I earned this money. Or we'll say, I'll trust God with my money when I have X amount of dollars in the saving account. But it's just one of many. A relationship is another example of someone that fights for that spot. I talked to tons of people who are like, man, I've got a scheme for getting with this girl, and this is how it's going to go down. And I'm like, you're crazy. Anyways, and he's like, if I just had that relationship, I'd be happy. I'd have security. There's someone who loves me. They like me. They have to accept me. All of that stuff. And they're like, who am I going to date? Who likes me? I need a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And they're like stuck on like, how can I just get with them? And we do this with our marriages. Like, you know what? Once I get married, cha-ching, she's locked in. Can't leave me, all that. And I'm like, great. And they're like, we only hang out with each other now. Children, it's another huge, huge potential thing that fights for that spot. And then we're like, little Jimmy's crushing it at baseball. He's going to go pro. Is he? You sure about that, Jimmy? He's 5. He's in Little League. Whatever. I don't know. But our kids, and we're like, well, I just give my kids whatever they want because I love them so much and I'm a good parent, and that's the narrative we believe. But there's tons of your sexual orientation, your phone, your school, and these are what the Bible would refer to as idols. Idols are what wedge themselves in between us and God's best for our lives. And not all of these examples are necessarily bad things. I mean, we're talking about kind of bad way a little bit, but they're not all bad things. Like, think about it. Like, money is actually a gift from God. Like, he's given us money to steward, to use wisely, to grow the kingdom, to bless others. A relationship is a desirable thing. Like, I love being married. It's great. Dating is good because I got to figure out who my person was before I married them. It's a wonderful thing. Kids are described, I love this, as arrows in your quiver. I don't know, it just kind of sounds baller. I don't know. And they're gifts from the Lord is what they are. And God made us. When we get obsessed about ourselves, God made us and he likes what he made. And the temptation when we address idolatry is we think, we got to burn this stuff to the ground. No foothold. I'm never doing that again. You idolize soccer, never play that again. But not exactly. Like, most of the things that are fighting for that center position in your life, they just simply need to be reordered or realigned, Like, now, some things need to be cut off. Like, don't do any illegal activity. That's bad. Like murder and stealing. Theft is bad. Don't do that. Should probably not look at porn or go to the strip club, those things. But there's definitely some stuff in there that we should never do. And why shouldn't we do those things? Because it's entirely contrary to the heart of God and what he wants for us. But here's the thing. If my marriage starts to become the center of my life and move into this place, that doesn't mean I'm going to end my marriage. Because here's the thing. My wife, Callie, she makes a fantastic wife. She makes a really bad God. She's going to fail me over and over and over again if I put her in this place that she doesn't belong because it belongs to Jesus. And if she lands in Jesus' spot of her heart, it's going to be catastrophic in some ways probably. And again, the goal for the Christ follower is to have our beliefs and our habits and our relationships creating a frame for living with Jesus at the center. And if we're not careful or thoughtful, each one of those things can wrestle into God's place. Like, our habits can wrestle in, our beliefs can wrestle in, our relationships can wrestle in. Think about it, like our beliefs, politics, if we just get Mr. Right or Mr. Left in there, we got it solved. We're saved. Or if, my habit, like my alcohol habit is not that big of a deal. I need to do it every day, all the time to be stable and cope and just get through life. And it becomes kind of like who I am. I'm just an alcoholic. I just drink, whatever. Your relationship, wife and kid, those ones really easy to slip in there. Especially, I love my wife so much. And I'm sure I'll love my kids so much one day. But, there's a specific order in my life where it goes God and then. And one of the things I've noticed, and we're going to spend a little time just talking about for the next little bit, is I've noticed talking with some Christians, it's often we just try and go for 2 out of the 3. And what Jesus would say, if we want to follow Jesus, is we need to have all 3 of these things to be aligned for us to follow Jesus the way he wants us to. That's what he's asking of us. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to spend a little bit of time breaking down what happens when we just go for 2 for 3. The first one is this: beliefs and habits. If I have all the right beliefs and all of the right habits, but I have none of the relationships, what happens? And the analogy I've kind of landed on is sports, guys. I don't know why, but I love it. Anyway, so I've got all the knowledge I need to be successful here in the ways I want to be successful. Like I know what the goal is, I know how to get there, and I have it all locked down in my head. And I show up to practice, man. I've practiced at home, man. I'm juggling. I'm playing FIFA or 2K or whatever sport you love, or Madden, whatever. Football's lame. Anyways, but I'm not close with my teammates. I'll play ball with them. I'll show up to the game, but there's no need for me to know them on a deeper level. And this is how teams fall apart, and it's because in the sports world, teams like this we would say they have a lack of chemistry. They can't play ball together well. And for the believer, it may sound more like this: I believe the right things. Jesus is king. Yeah. I do the right things. I pray. I read my Bible. I tithe, I give money here and there, but I'm missing the relationships that form me more and more into the person of Jesus. He wants us to look like him. And I don't need to go to church. I don't need to have a community. I don't need to go to the Bible study. I can study on my own. I can read my Bible. I can read. I'm literate. Anyways, I don't need to serve. There's not a spot I really want to serve anyways. Or we say, my family is all the community I need right now. We'll get more involved when the kids get older or something, when we have more time for that. And what happens when we're missing relationships is we miss out on opportunities to love others and receive love from others. We will miss out on having accountability. We don't have people who can show up for us when our life blows up. The inverse is also true. We miss out on showing up for people and pointing them back to Jesus, to the love and peace he brings into our lives. And this is just as important as having people who show up for us, is being someone who shows up for others. And we are also people who point our new family, like John is doing, like my brother had to do. They had to point me back to Jesus in the midst of trouble. That's the job. That's what we do. We need to be people who show up when we get the phone call, when our lives blow up, and we miss out on living out the commands of the Bible that specifically talk about relationships. Did you know that there are over 59 commandments in the Bible that specifically talk about how we ought to interact with one another as believers? So if we do the habit thing and the belief thing, but not the relationship thing, we're actually missing out on how we can interact with each other in the way that Jesus asked us to. So it's pretty hard, and in my way of thinking, it's pretty hard to fulfill those without being around each other. All right. The second thing that we want to talk about a little bit is beliefs and relationships. I believe all the right stuff. Jesus is Lord. I have all the right relationships, but I don't have any habits formed. This one's tricky, and that's like, think of your team. I have the right goal and the right beliefs. I'm close with my teammates on my team, but outside of seeing my teammates, nothing in my life is geared towards being the kind of athlete I want to be. Like, I eat whatever I want. Like, I'm eating Chick-fil-A every day, I go to bed at 2 a.m., which is an unrealistic bedtime that you're just unreasonable. Don't do that. I give 50% at practice, and I just show up for the games. That's not going to end well. You're probably not going to get played and you're going to end up on the bench. Anyways, but for the Christ follower, it's like I believe the right stuff, the right things. I put my trust in Jesus. I have the right people in my life. I go to church. I'm in community. I've got a group of people in my corner that walk with me through life. But most of my habits are actually not in line with how Jesus would call me to live. And it's not that they're even bad. It's just that, there's not a problem with working out or drinking coffee. So what do I mean by this, and what happens if you find yourself here? Let me walk you through this thought process. When it counts, and you are put in a situation where you can make the choice to live and act more like Jesus or in a way that is opposite or contrary to Jesus, why would you make the choice to look like Jesus if nothing in your life is set up for you to do so? And if nothing in your life is set up in your life to look like Jesus, do you really want to be like Jesus? And I'm not saying you got to be legalistic, like you got no smoking, no vaping, no, don't drink, don't chew, date girls who do, don't get tattoos. You need to be a monk or whatever. I don't know. All I'm saying is if you want to be in on the life Jesus offers, our habits become a part of the frame that shapes us. And and for me, like I need to schedule time to be with Jesus because this is the hardest one for me to get. Like I need to schedule time for me to be in the Word and in prayer, and I'm gonna set some giving habits around my money so it doesn't control me, so I can keep Jesus over my money. And here at Grace we have this thing called the Big Three. It's a way for us to tangibly live in a way where we set up habits in our life so we can be a blessing to others. We can be in prayer and get in the Bible, and it's just an easy way for us to start finding habits to be more and more like the person Jesus is calling us to be. And that's a great place to start forming habits. And the last two that we try and just, if I can just get these two, I'll be golden, is this one. We go for, if I have all the habits and all of the relationships, but I don't have any of the beliefs, right? I do the right things. I have the right people in my life. Here's the thing about Jesus that's really important. Jesus, by nature, forces everyone to make a personal decision about him. It's the gospel when you hear it, the good news that Jesus brings to your life, it demands a response. It does. And it's not that, I'm going to try and be a better person because, Jesus was a good guy. No, Jesus is not interested in behavior modification. And it's not the lie, well, I'm with better people than I once was. They used to be a pretty rough crowd, but now it's a little better. That doesn't cut it. The qualification for being in the family of God is deciding what we believe about Jesus. That's the one qualification. And if you are in on Jesus, then you are in on being a part of the family, which means you're in on loving others and allowing Jesus to step into your habits and beliefs and slowly is important, slowly forming you more and more into the person that looks like Jesus, the Jesus-y kind of person. And that's kind of where John's led us. If we think about 1 John, again, those first 3 verses, it's like we're all in on it. We have to believe that Jesus is God. And if we believe that Jesus is God, we're in this family, and the big part of this family is we have to love others. So it's important that we interact with others. And how do we know that we love God and love others? It's by following God and obeying his commandments, right? Setting up habits in our life to do so, to do the things that we're supposed to do. So John is kind of nailing this on the head. And if we're missing one of these 3 things, that's probably a strong indication that there is something else fighting for this center spot that Jesus has earned, that he deserves, that he is jealous for. And again, these things aren't like a math formula. If you just get all of these in the right way, you're like, boom, I'm in. No, they're just guardrails and rumble strips, man. It lets you know when you're going off the road and you got to correct. So here's what I would love for you to think about. As we close out, as we slow down, what does this look like in your life? Tangibly. Like, think about your life every day. What are the things I'm believing? What are the things I do? Who are the people that I'm surrounding myself with? And hear me, this is hard work and takes humility and courage. This is the hardest thing this is the hardest thing I've ever done and would probably ever ask you to do is sit down and think about, what do I believe and how does it not align with Jesus? Sit down. What do I do and how am I misaligned from Jesus? Who am I with, and are they drawing me closer to the person of Jesus, or are they actually pulling me away from Jesus? And that's where we start to see what the indication is. And likely, if there's something missing here, or if you see habits that are disaligned, or beliefs that are misaligned, or relationships that are misaligned, there's probably something else sneaking its way into the center where Jesus deserves to be. So what I would challenge you to do is this. Open up your heart to Jesus. Invite him in. Have him take a look at what's really going on in your heart. The ways that are misaligned. Because this is what kind of the framework John has given us to look at. And this is what David actually writes about as we close out our time together today. And the band comes up. I'd have them come up here. I'd encourage you to pray through this psalm. I'll do that with us. And just have a real conversation with God. The psalm is Psalm 139, 23 through 24. And it goes like this. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. This is our job, and David makes this super clear. Our job is to be open to Jesus, open to God, and allow him to come in and kind of push some things out. I know I'm prone to. I get greedy. I get prideful. I struggle with a lot of different things, and there's stuff that wants to take the place. And I know I'm not alone in the room. And this is the hard work where we allow God to step in, and you just kind of have to let him show you and poke at some stuff that might be uncomfortable and allow him to change some things. But here's the thing I want you to think about is this question. Am I on the path that leads to everlasting life? The core thing you need to know is that starts with believing in Jesus, because Jesus is eternal life, is what John says. And if you believe in that, that's a great start today. If this is your first time ever making a decision, that's wonderful. And the ramifications of that faith in Jesus is your habits, the things you do, changes, and you gain a whole bunch of brothers and sisters, which is a huge deal. So let God challenge you. Let God reshape these things. And we're going to pray through this psalm together. And I'd love to see what could change in our church if we all did this hard work. Could you imagine the kind of people we could be if we allowed Jesus to take the center throne of our life? Allow him to redefine every piece of our life. And could you imagine what would happen in our community, this little 5-mile area, if all of us were in on that? And we all were like, you know what? We're going to be people who are crazy about Jesus and are crazy about experiencing his love daily in a regular way, and be crazy about making sure we love others in a way that people are like, that's nuts. That's so weird. Why are you so kind to others? You know, could you imagine? This is the most attractive kind of love in the world. You know why? Because it's not self-seeking. Jesus is the example. He comes and gives his life for us, and he's like, do that. If we were all in on Jesus, that's what starts happening to us, guys. We start becoming people who just give away. And that's the stuff that changes communities, that changes us. And that's the kind of people that God wants us to be. I'm going to pray, and the band's going to come up. If you could bow your head, just close your eyes. We're going to focus on talking to God. Lord, thank you so much for every person in this room. Thank you for the truth that you love us so much that you sent Jesus to be enough for us, because we could never be enough, Jesus. And because of Jesus' work on the cross and our faith in him, we can be in this family and find hope, find joy, find peace, find love. And Lord, I just pray for everyone in this room that you could just give us the strength, the courage, and the humility to just open up our hearts to you. And Lord, would you just search our hearts? Would you show us the ways that we're kind of far from you? Would you show us the habits that don't align with what you really want from us? Would you show us the things that we believe about ourselves, about the world around us, maybe even about you, that don't line up with you, Jesus? And would you replace those stories with something true? And God, for the people in our lives, would you just show us how to interact with people? Would you show us how to lean into our community, lean into our brothers and sisters that we gain? And would you help us to be a doorway to people who are outside of the family? Just help us to be love and light in this community. We love you so much. And we just say thank you for the way you love us. And it's in your son Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.